Howdy, howdy, gang. It is Friday, yes, TGIF. It is also the beginning of Chinese New Year, and this is the year of the dog. I have to say that kind of quietly so that Pinky and Smokey don't hear me say that and give me this dirty look over here. But do you know what the year of the dog means? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. All I can tell you for certain is the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Yes, it is Friday, February 16th. I am Jeff McAleer. I am your host here at the Daily Dope, as well as the Grand Poobah at thegaminggang.com. So welcome aboard. I've got, the news is kind of slim today, but I do have a few news items. And I'm going to dip into the mailbag a little bit. I am going to talk about what's coming up next week on the show. But mainly, I will be unboxing the agents from the fine folks over at Ninja Division. This is a new edition of the agents, because I believe the agents came out, I think 2013, 2014. And I believe there was another Kickstarter from Ninja Division, and I believe it arrived last summer. So, not the freshest game, but I hear some good things about it through the grapevine, so I'm interested in taking a peek. Normally, Fridays are pretty much family fun Fridays, family-friendly Fridays, whatever we want to call it. I can't say for sure that that's going to be kind of a family game. As far as the age ranges, I hear different things. I'll have to take a peek at the box, but because of the subject matter, might not be for some of the younger gamers out there. Don't know. We'll take a look. Anyway, all right. So, before I jump into the news, I just wanted to mention I did talk about some of my thoughts yesterday about the school shooting in Parkland, Florida. And, you know, I had all of about 40 views so far of yesterday's show. And, of course, I get a couple of emails, people saying, hey, shut up, stick to talking about games. It's like, sorry, I'm not going to do that. This is my show. I call the shots. It's my opinions. I spent 3 minutes out of an hour-long show talking about the horrific events. And it's not like I got super political. Don't make me get political on you. Anyway. So it's the first day of Chinese New Year, and honestly, I don't know anything about the Year of the Dog. I do know Year of the Rat, although it doesn't sound like it would be a good thing. Year of the Rat is supposed to be pretty good if you're born during the Year of the Rat. I forget what I fall into. 1967. I don't know. I think it was maybe like the year of the U or something like that, or Ram, or I don't know. But if you are out there and you are celebrating Chinese New Year, well, all right, cool deal. Hope you enjoy the holiday. All right, so why don't we move into the news? I just have a little bit of news. Some of the news is actually going to be more kind of opinion piece too. But anywho, Fantasy Flight Games has announced the newest expansion to Eldritch Horror is now available, and I've got the dope on Masks of Nyarlathotep. Oh yes. Eldritch Horror Masks of Nyarlathotep is an expansion for Eldritch Horror. A cooperative board game for 1 to 8 players in which intrepid investigators must traverse the globe in an attempt to thwart the cataclysmic rise of an otherworldly ancient one. Strange cults are gathering strength in remote corners and bustling cities all over the world. Though they seem to worship different gods, the investigators have found a thread that runs throughout all of the cultists' horrific rites. In Masks of Nyarlathotep, each of these sects pursues the awakening of an aspect of the same horrific creature. Nyarlathotep. This being is known as the messenger of the outer gods, and he is the only ancient one that still actively walks among humanity. The investigators must work to stop the cult springing up to serve his many guises, or Nyarlathotep. Need to grab a sip. Man, and I'm so used to saying that name too. Because I ran the famous Call of Cthulhu campaign. Anyway, Nyarlathotep. Ooh, mouthful. You don't want Nyarlathotep to gain enough strength to open the ultimate gate, ushering in an unthinkable doom. Strike down these cultists in new adventures, explore ancient mysteries among new mystic ruins, and destroy the monstrous followers of Nyarlathotep. New to this expansion, personal stories unique to each character add stakes to the actions undertaken by each investigator, and a campaign mode adds a fresh challenge and enriches the narrative of the investigator's struggles to stop the many cults worshipping the multitude of faces worn by one dread being in Eldritch Horror Masks of Nyarlathotep. Mask of Nyarlathotep brings new unique assets, spells, items, and more to help battle these new and terrible threats. This expansion also includes 2 new Ancient Ones, 5 new Investigators, a new Mythos deck, and new Otherworld and Encounter cards. The Masks of Nyarlathotep expansion is, as mentioned previously, for 1 to 8 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 2 to 4 hours, and carries an MSRP of $49.95. I will say that I have played quite a bit of Arkham Horror. In fact, I've got it right back here. Yep, right there. I have only played Eldritch Horror twice, and not very recently, and enjoyed it. I enjoyed the kind of, I don't want to say necessarily lighter take on Arkham Horror, but it certainly takes a whole lot less time to get set up to play a game. So yes, I'm sure that is going to be of interest to plenty of gamers out there. I also have another item. It is from a company that I am not familiar with, and it is Nauvoo Games. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. But they have a new Kickstarter, which is based on the Brandon Sanderson series of books, The Reckoners. Oh yeah. Care to guess what the name of the game is? Come on, give it a guess. Take a guess. It's obvious. It's The Reckoners. And I have the dope. 10 years ago, a mysterious burst in the sky gave ordinary men and women extraordinary powers. They're called epics. But every epic turned out to be evil. Today, in the city once known as Chicago, my hometown, now New Chicago, okay, an all-powerful epic named Steelheart reigns supreme. Nobody fights back, nobody but the Reckoners. This is where you come in. You are a member of the Reckoners, a skilled group of normal humans who assassinate epics. Your mission is simple, but not easy. Take down Steelheart and his epics and save the city. Please, save Chicago. New Chicago. The Reckoners is a simultaneous cooperative game for 1 to 6 players that plays in 75 minutes. During the game, you control one of the members of the Reckoners team. You win by defeating Steelheart, but before you can defeat him, you must first discover his weakness. Seems simple, right? Did I mention that Steelheart and all his epics have superpowers? Each round, all of the epics are going to activate, performing an array of actions and then powering up to be even more devastating next round. If the epics manage to destroy New Chicago by reducing the population to 0, then all the Reckoners lose. Boo, hiss, boo. There is a Kickstarter video. I did want to share it. It runs a little more than 2.5 minutes. But let's take a peek at the Reckoners.
10 years ago, a mysterious burst in the sky gave ordinary men and women extraordinary powers. We call them epics. But every epic turned out to be evil. Here in the city once known as Chicago, an all-powerful epic named Steelheart reigns supreme. My name is David. Steelheart killed my father. I've spent my life studying Steelheart and epics like him, so I could have my revenge. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Every epic has a weakness, even Steelheart. That's why I'm teaming up with the Reckoners, a group of ordinary humans who assassinate epics. I've got something they need. I'm the only person alive who's seen Steelheart bleed, and I will see him bleed again. Okay, we don't have much time. The Reckoners is a cooperative board game where we need to work together for the next 75 minutes to defeat Steelheart and save New Cago. Tia, what are our options?
Dice determine which actions we can take. We can research, attack epics and enforcement, contain epics, earn money, or make plans for the future. Each round, we will simultaneously roll our dice and select which results to keep and which to re-roll. Hey Abraham, can you help me attack Nightwielder after I research his weakness?
Affirmative. After rolling, we simultaneously use our dice. So, Tia may research Nightwielder's weakness, and we can attack him together. Each epic defeated will grant us rewards that can help us purchase valuable equipment, or, most importantly, research Steelheart's weakness.
But don't forget, Abraham, each epic is unique and performs a set of actions based on how powerful they've become. Here, Fortuity regenerates, attacks New Cago twice, and powers up Steelheart on his turn. But he's only one of the many problems we need to solve.
And Steelheart is the nastiest of them all, my lads and lassies. He'll attack the city, destroy our hideouts, deploy his enforcement, and build barricades to impede our progress. So, what's the plan, Prof? I'm not gonna lie to you guys. The odds are against us. Steelheart is completely invincible until we figure out his weakness, so we must get that first. We'll need to split our resources between stopping Steelheart and protecting the people. Then, when the time comes, we'll need to commit an all-out attack on Steelheart. 1 or 2 massive hits should take him down. Otherwise, it's over for us and the rest of New Cago.
As previously mentioned, The Reckoners is for 1 to 6 players. I'm guessing about ages 14 and up because you are assassinating superheroes. Supervillains, I should say, not superheroes. And looks like there's some small components to it. It does play at around 75 minutes, and you can score the core game and all unlocked deluxe stretch goals at the $69 pledge level. There's also an epic pledge level for $119 where the miniatures you receive will be pre-painted. The project is over 100% funded as of this moment, and it carries an expected delivery date of October of this year. It does look pretty interesting. It looks like it's kind of a push your luck dice mechanic to the game. And I notice it's sort of like each of the players have kind of a tray as opposed to just a board. One thing I will mention, this doesn't really strike me as a game that really needs miniatures. So, I don't know, take that for what that's worth. And then the $119 for pre-painted miniatures. And I think there's a physical book that comes with it too. I don't know. I don't know anything about this company. I don't know anything about Nauvoo Games, if I'm even pronouncing that correctly. But they have had other games come out. They've been well received. They've got sort of a stock market game. So I don't have any real qualms about, oh, is this gonna fund? And I don't think Brandon Sanderson would have lent his name and his IP to a company that wasn't going to deliver. I'm just kind of up in the air as far as the miniatures. They look cool, don't get me wrong, but looks like this might not be a game that you really need the miniatures, so that's kind of bumping up the price. Don't know, but it is rapidly approaching the 200% funding goal, and it just started. It just launched, I think, Tuesday? I think it was Tuesday. So it's got quite a ways to go. So I'm sure this is going to do really well. All right, moving right along. Not gaming related, but horror fans are going to be happy to know that Fangoria magazine is going to be making a return to provide you with all the film news and previews you came to love. That is, if you love horror movies. I do have the dope from the new proprietors, Cinestate. Fangoria magazine is returning from its digital grave and back into print where it belongs. Thanks to a new investment, a new editor-in-chief, and a new publisher, the world's highest profile horror movie magazine is reemerging as a collectible quarterly, with the first issue set to drop this fall just in time for Halloween. Cinestate, the Texas-based entertainment company, completed the deal to acquire all the assets and trademarks of the Fangoria brand, including the magazine, from the Brooklyn company. Cinestate CEO Dallas Sonier, taking a guess, diligently courted the previous publisher Thomas DeFeo for several months, with the two signing an agreement that turned over the rights to Sonier and Cinestate. Sonier's first move as a new publisher was to hire his favorite film writer Phil, I believe it's Nobile Jr., as the editor-in-chief of Fangoria magazine. Nobile comes to Fangoria from his role as editor-at-large for the website birth.movies.death, and as a writer-producer for Stage 3 Productions in Philadelphia, where he created a feature-length documentary on John Carpenter's Halloween. Nobile will also act as the creative director for the entire Fangoria brand. There needs to be a Fangoria, says Nobile. The magazine was a constant presence in the genre since 1979. And then, one day it was gone. That felt to us tragically incorrect. Fango was, for multiple generations, a privileged window into the world of horror. It gave us access to filmmakers' processes and secrets, opened our eyes to movies we might have otherwise missed, and nurtured a wave of talent that's out there driving the genre today. I'm proud and excited to be part of the team that's bringing this institution back. Fangoria magazine will return with a fresh issue this October, as I mentioned before, just in time for Halloween. I will mention I was never a Fangoria reader. I read it on occasion. Greg, my brother, and I, we were always big Starlog fans. We always read Starlog. We picked that up constantly. I wish I had all the old issues of Starlog that we had. One thing I will point out, though, Cinestate did pick up all the rights to Starlog and back issues of that as well. I like horror movies. I can't say I'm a huge horror movie fan, especially stuff that to me are just like kind of like snuff porn sort of movies, the Hostels and the Saws and things like that. Not my bag of tricks. Whereas like American Werewolf in London or John Carpenter's The Thing, yeah, I love those. In fact, I was just talking about how I introduced my nephew Cameron, who's 16, to Brotherhood of the Wolf, the French film. And you gotta say it's a horror movie, even though it turns out the monster in it isn't. I'm not gonna ruin it. I'm not gonna spoil it. Anyway, all right, my last news piece, which is sort of going to segue into an op-ed, is about Steve Jackson Games. And Steve Jackson Games released their stakeholders' State of the Company, effectively, for 2017, and sales were down for the third year in a row. Sales were down for both of the Steve Jackson Games evergreen titles, Munchkin and Zombie Dice, which, honestly, I wouldn't have thought Zombie Dice is an evergreen title, but I guess it sells a lot better than I thought. There were some hits. There were some Munchkin releases. Munchkin Shakespeare did very, very well for them. And there were some bombs. Dungeon Fantasy Role-Playing and the Steve Jackson Games edition of Port Royal did not go over well at all. And Port Royal, there was another English language edition that was out there that was quite a bit cheaper than Steve Jackson Games, and I think they got burned by that. Now, Dungeon Fantasy, I think that was just they came out. It's a crowded market, and it was really a GURPS box set. It did look neat. Don't get me wrong. It did look pretty cool, but did not go over all too well. Anyway, also 2018, there are plans to bring, of course, Munchkin, the collectible card game, is coming to market. It actually hits next week. There are some other base Munchkin games in the works. I believe they are supposed to be core sets. And Car Wars is going to come to Kickstarter. Supposed to be a new edition. I don't know. I don't have any of the dope. When I used to actually talk with Andrew Hackard over at Steve Jackson Games, that was one of the things I always asked about. And they were always very non-committal. They were going to do it, but nobody was even sure what kind of game they were going to make of it. So, anyway, supposedly Car Wars is going to come to Kickstarter in 2018 with an expected release of 2019 or 2020. I'm going to be very honest. It's going to be 2020, if even then. And I've talked about this a little bit before on the show. I sort of have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with Steve Jackson Games. I love them because of the nostalgia that many of their titles hold for me, and I'm not talking Munchkin. I'm talking Car Wars, Raid on Iran, One Page Bulge, The Fantasy Trip, which is now back in the hands of Steve Jackson, so that was good news to hear. So I have that love, and then I've got kind of this hate. I don't want to say hate. It's not, I don't really hate anything. So it's kind of, I guess, love-dislike baby relationship. I have this dislike because I don't know, the company just doesn't seem to hit on all cylinders. And I guess like for an example, the Dungeon Fantasy not going over well, the Port Royal edition, that there was already another English language edition out there that was easily available for buyers. Sometimes it just seems to me like the folks in charge aren't thinking everything through. Maybe I don't have anything against Munchkin. I think Munchkin's a fun game. I've played it with my nephew and his friends and stuff like that. I get a kick out of it. I mean, is it like, wow, I got to have every expansion? No, absolutely not. It's not how I look at it. But I have some concerns as far as Steve Jackson Games, and I hope these are kind of unfounded. But I have a sneaking suspicion they might be going too heavily into the Munchkin collectible card game. Now, I'm not dissuading anyone to buy it. I don't know anything about it. I've seen some pictures. Steve Jackson Games never sends me anything for review. Even when I'm sitting there and I'm doing an interview with folks from Steve Jackson Games at a convention, it's always a blow off as far as getting a review copy from them. So, don't know. I know nothing about the collectible card game outside of, a few things that they've already shared about it. But collectible card games, that is a tough industry right now. That is a tricky industry. And collectible card games, I was around when Magic first hit, and then the following year at Gen Con, you couldn't move without running into somebody's collectible card game. So, of course, the market's not as crowded as it was for a few years after the huge success of Magic the Gathering. And, of course, 95% of those copycats were garbage. They were junk. But the thing is, collectible card games helped bring down TSR when TSR was a pretty big name in the industry, and they were pulling in $35 million in sales every year. Collectible card games almost destroyed Chaosium. In fact, pretty much threw a wrench into Chaosium for years and years and years. So I'm a little bit concerned with this collectible card game for Munchkin, because part of the appeal, from what I know from people who play Munchkin, is that it is not a collectible card game. You go and you buy your boosters, you buy your, well, there are sometimes some boosters, but you buy your expansions and things like that, so you effectively know what you're going to get. So I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned. Sales were down for Steve Jackson Games for the third year in a row, but according to the stakeholders, and because it's not a public company, there are no shareholders. The only shareholder is Steve Jackson, right? But at least, you know, SJ Games is transparent enough where they share this information, because there are other partners that they have, other companies that they work with, who have a stake in their company's success. So right now they're saying that they probably broke even, maybe came out ahead on profits, but sales were down. So that was, yeah, that was kind of a bummer. Like I said, I'm just a little bit concerned that maybe the collectible card game for Munchkin won't be as big a hit as the folks at Steve Jackson Games are thinking it will be. Fingers crossed. Like I said, love-dislike relationship, but I don't wish any ill will on Steve Jackson Games. In fact, one of my interviews I did, I think, pretty sure it was at Gen Con, I said, you know, yes, Munchkin, it's, you know, they even have expansions where it's like beating a dead horse, right? Yes, they beat that horse pretty much. There's no flesh left on that skeleton, really. But I said straight out in the interview, I said, hey, if it keeps the company's doors open, cool for me. I have no issue with it. That's fine. All right. So anyway, going to move on to the unboxing of the Agents in just a minute. I did want to reach into the mailbag. Well, first off, I did want to mention, I get this email yesterday from yesterday's winner of the contest I had for the Wing Leader expansion, Blitz 1939 to 1942, which, strangely enough, I must have had Victory Point Games on my mind when I did the review for Darkest Night from Victory Point Games, because I said this was from Victory Point Games. It's like, it's GMT Games, dummy. I know that. I've been showing this off for quite some time while the contest was going on, and I kept referring to it as, you know, from the correct company, GMT. But I had VPG on my mind. Plus, if you saw that episode, if you caught that episode of the Daily Dope, you already know that I had a big problem with my right contact, so much where my nose was running. It was, I mean, really super painful. I barely squeaked out that review, and personally, I thought the review, in my opinion, was not up to snuff, what I like to present. So anyway, so I announced yesterday the winner of Wing Leader Blitz. And I get this email, and they're all excited. They're like, "Oh, you know," because I guess they don't watch the show live, but they usually watch when they come home from work. This person who sent me this email and said, "Oh yeah, so the show was on," and I guess he didn't catch the part where I announced who the winner was, but I think his wife did. And his wife's like, "Oh," he was all excited. They're like, they brought the kids in. He had to like go back to replay it again, and to me, that's sort of like, you know what, that makes my day hearing something like that. You know, somebody was so excited, someone who watches the show, and I'm not going to name their name because I'm sorry, I'm not going to spoil the viewers out there by giving them shout outs all the time. But yeah, you know, if I can make somebody kind of smile or cheer them up for the day. After, you know, a long, hard day. Oh, look at this. So yes, I forgot to mention that chat is available. Yeah, I should kind of think about these things when I open the show, right? So chat is available on Twitch as well as YouTube, and the person who won yesterday is in chat. There's no chat on screen. It's off screen because that kind of keeps the trolls at bay. And yes, all of a sudden, I see this pop-up go, "I'm watching live today." Well, thank you for watching, Robert. So, Anyways, the other thing I was going to jump into the mailbag is Ken in Lincoln, Nebraska, which amazingly enough, I have gone through Lincoln, Nebraska umpteen times. Back when I was doing the RV delivery around the country. I used to, from Indiana out to the West Coast all the time, and I go through Lincoln all the time. So very familiar with Lincoln, Nebraska. Anyway, so the question is, why don't I do many Kickstarter previews? Interesting question, because you look at Kickstarters and you see, all these different reviews and all these different people. And yes, there are people out there, I'm not naming their names, but when I see that they've got a review up on a Kickstarter and they're like the featured reviewer, I'm like, oh, I don't think so. So anyway, so the reason I do Kickstarter previews, and I have done 28. Oh, now, okay. So Robert's wife came home. She's home from work. Hello, Robert's wife. Everyone here is watching. He's got the neighbors over. So anyway, so I have done 28 Kickstarters, and I tend to, it wasn't always this way, but what I tend to do with Kickstarters is, okay, so nobody out there that I'm aware of, unless they're a sucker, does Kickstarter preview videos for free. Everybody charges something. I don't charge a lot. And what I do with my Kickstarter previews is I actually wrap that up with some consulting about the Kickstarter, as well as advertising on thegaminggang.com for the duration of the Kickstarter. So it's the video, and okay, so that's how I do it. And out of the 28, 26 have successfully funded. And the 2 that did not, one was a bag for carrying your board games, and it was called The Keep. And it was kind of like this square kind of container, and it was pretty cool, right? So this was before I was really doing a lot of consulting about it. It was more like they just wanted to have it featured. So I never saw it up close and personal, right? So anyway, so I'm like, yeah, sure, we'll work out a deal. We'll promote it on the website, have an ad, blah, blah, blah. So the project goes live. And the folks behind this wanted, wait for it, $1 million to fund this bag for your games. And yes, so Robert's wife says hello. Hello, Robert's wife. Yeah. So anyway, they wanted $1 million for this, basically this kind of box that you carry your games around in. And they brought in all of, I think, $14,000. So they decided they were going to completely revamp this Kickstarter. And I did not know that they were looking to get $1 million. Otherwise, I would have never agreed to actually promote this. It was just through advertising, right? So anyway, so we're revamping it. They changed it up. So then they did a new edition of the Keep, where it was effectively a messenger's bag, or for folks who are in the military, like a medic's bag. And they wanted $250,000. And then the other one that wasn't successful was just it was a board game that had miniatures. It looked really cool. I didn't get to review it. I didn't get a preview copy of it. So it was just kind of advertising with us, and it just hit at the wrong time. And there was a big Cool Mini or Not. Reaper had one of their Bones miniatures things going on, so it really got lost in the shuffle. So the other 26 have all been successful. And the one thing that a lot of people who have Kickstarters who contact me to do previews have an issue with, and that's why I don't do so many, is that I tell them right off the bat, it's not going to be a review. I am not going to do a review for the Kickstarter because, in all honesty, it is not going to be what the buyer receives. Now, I'm happy to say, hey, this is a preview, taking a look at this, talk about the gameplay, and I give my thoughts on the game overall, but I tell them straight out, it's not a review because this is not what's going to end up in the buyer's hands. And many companies are like, well, no, I don't have any interest. We want a review. It's like, no, I can't do that. So that is why Ken in Lincoln, Nebraska. That is why I don't do a ton of Kickstarter previews, because I refuse to label them as a review. And I have also had other companies that have contacted me, and I've looked at their Kickstarter, and I just was like, meh, no. Nah, I mean, you know, some of them fun, some of them don't. Just not something that jumps out and kind of grabs my interest. And I don't want to be a shill. I really don't want to be a shill. And folks out there, if you're experienced in the gaming community, you know who the shills are. You know, you look at a Kickstarter and go, oh, they got them? I don't know. All right, so anyway, yes, Robert, leave me alone so I can do my show. I'm just kidding. All right, so today I'm going to take a look at the Agents from Ninja Division. The Agents is designed by, I believe it's Sar Shai, something along those lines. Probably mispronouncing the name. Obviously, I'm mispronouncing the name. It does have artwork provided by Dan Morrison. It is for 1 to 6 players. The box indicates it's for ages 14 and up. And usually, because this is a card game, usually I'll say, well, you know, 14 and up, it's more of a US components thing. Probably some tokens or something in here, maybe. But the whole premise of the Agents is that each of the players is kind of pulling the string, and they're hiring these agents to go out and complete missions and knock off other agents. So just the subject matter alone, probably not going to bust this out with your 10-year-old. Then again, it's up to you. You're the parents. I can't tell you what you're going to do. All right, so the Agents has been out for a while. As I mentioned before, this is a new edition that came out. I believe originally this was self-published. And this is the edition that came out that was kickstarted by Ninja Division. And as I try to not knock over the other camera here. Anyway, this was successfully kickstarted. I believe it came out in July. I might be wrong, but it does carry an MSRP of $34. I think it's $34.99. I don't think it's $34.95. Fantasy Flight Games tends to be one of the few companies that does that 95 cents rather than 99 cents. So, as we're taking a peek here, let's get the shrink off. See, on the box it indicates it's for 14 and up for 2 to 5 players, and it takes about 20 to 40 minutes to play. So, the flavor text on the back of the box says disarmed, disbanded, dismissed. As the agency shuts down, dismissed and disbanded agents all around the world are trying to figure out what's next. Left without a cause, and probably a paycheck. That was me throwing that in. They team up and turn against each other. You must enlist and lead your own faction of highly skilled professionals into an uncertain territory of betrayal and deception. Show no mercy, reveal no secrets. The Agents is a deceptively simple card game, easy to learn, set up, and start playing, but underpinned by intricate decision-making gameplay. Hey, thankfully they didn't say, oh, it's easy to learn and difficult to master. Players must join their agents into factions, assign missions, and take their opponents down to gather intel and win the most points. All right. So I know a little bit about this game, and this is just basically, I know things through the grapevine, because as I mentioned, I think this came out originally in 2013. So one thing I do understand is that the cards will hold kind of multiple, they're multi-purpose. They can be used for a couple of different purposes here, which I dig that about games. That's one of the reasons why I like a lot of card-driven games, especially a lot of the GMT historical stuff, or even, 1960. I like the whole balancing act of, okay, do I really want this event, or do I want those operations points? Now, granted, these cards aren't going to be events, but... Okay, so we've got some tokens here. I don't know if these might be money, influence, what have you. All right, we got the rules of play, and we got 16 pages. And we got some time. We kind of take our time with this. Oh, somebody else had mentioned in an email. And, of course, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, just feel free to email me at mailbag@thegaminggang.com. Somebody had emailed me, this. I think that was earlier in the week. And I said, you take a lot of time to do your unboxings. Most other people take about 5 minutes. And so we're like, well, great. If you're that strapped for time, go watch the 5-minute videos. What do you want from me? So I like to kind of take my time, take a look at stuff. So we got the rules of play. So we've got the goal, setup, factions, agents, abilities, missions, turn sequence, and the FAQ. Hey, it says page 17 for the FAQ. It's page 16. Oh, that's it. I'm not reviewing this. I'm not unboxing this. All right, so that's pretty much the same thing that we saw on the back of the box. So the goal, the agents is a 2 to 5 player game of spies, secrets, and subterfuge. Your task is to use agents to further your ambitions, build factions, complete missions, and ultimately collect the most intel points. All right, so that's what these are. These are intel points. It's going to include 40 agent cards, 40 mission cards, 5 safe houses, and 5 player aid cards. All right, so it's talking about the setup, showing, okay, what's in the middle of the table, what each player gets, talking about white token halves, one side of the faction, the other side of the faction. Safe house setup for 2-player game. The other thing I understand, oh, here we go. So it's showing, okay, so if you've got, let's say, it looks like it's 4-player setup here. The other understanding I have is, let's say for an example, you've got, say 4 or 5 players. You're not necessarily going to be messing with everybody around the table. I think your main focus is to the player on your right and left. Those are the ones you have to watch out for. I think there are cards that you can play that will affect other players around the table. So, don't know. I have not played this. But like I said, I have heard some good stuff through the grapevine. So we've got the factions here. Oh, see? Yeah, there you go. So it's showing player on your left, player on your right, your faction, Okay. It's showing the agents. And we're showing token halves. Not sure what that might mean. Command. So it looks like some of the agents might have a command, some of them have an ability. So we've got the assassin and the hacker. It's like kind of giving yeah, I guess you got to match up these token halves that looks like they've got an arrow. So I'm guessing the arrow is going to play or point toward your targeted player. Maybe point towards you. I'm not sure. Okay, so talking about abilities, turn, kill, revive, extract, move. Talking about missions. Okay, then we're looking at here, it shows the turn sequence, actions phase. Play an agent, activate a command, buy a mission, buy an agent. Talking about each of those. Talking about missions phase, point phase example. So, taking a stab, you're playing to a certain number of intel points, and whoever has that number of intel points at the end of the game is probably the winner. Okay, so we see this box, we see a whole lot of little storage areas here for this, but just these cards. So the reason behind that is I do know there are expansions that are available. Hey, Harry Ryan's chiming in. Hi, Jeff. It looks like the camera on the game table is not selected. Ah, for crying out loud. Yeah. All right, so I might have to, yeah, I might trim that out. So, yeah, well, okay. All right, let's go back. Let's go back real quick. I'm not going to, I read what was on the back of the box, so that's cool. All right, so it looked like these are, hey, thanks, Harry. Much appreciated for chiming in, letting me know. As opposed to me, watching, finish up. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. And then it's like, oh, yeah, people got to stare at me all this time. Sweet. Then again, I might leave it in because, hey, it's live. That's what happens. Yesterday, the camera fell over. I mean, come on, this is live. Okay. So these are the Intel Point tokens here. Taking a look at these. I'll just kind of flip through the book a little bit again. So we're looking at showing the setup. What each player starts off with. I guess you're going to have cards in the middle of the table. Maybe those are missions. Showing setting up for a 2-player game. I guess there's a safe house. Okay, so this is what I was kind of talking about. From what I thought I understand is that like in a 4-player game, you're only worried about the player on your left and right. That I think you can only really yeah, there you go. Hey, not a problem. Thanks for pointing that out, Harry. Much appreciated. But I think you're only, say for an example, say you're here, I think you're only worried about these 2 players. I think you can affect the other player, but I think these are the ones that you worry about, because then we see this example here. Then we've got the agents. And as we can see, it's showing these token halves, which looks like you gotta kind of connect your agents so that these arrows on the cards match up, that they line up. And then they were showing the abilities. Then talking about the missions phase, point phase. Did I skip a page there? Yeah, missions. Showing the different missions. And then the point phase example. All right, so, and then there's FAQs on the back. So I was pointing out that we've got this box, and it's got all this, separated storage, but these are the cards. So as I started to turn towards the camera and found out, hey, look, people are just staring at me sideways. No, Robert, it's not your fault. No, I hit, the way the software I use that does the stream, and I set up all these little scenes and things like that, every once in a while when I hit the button to transition over, it shows my preview as it's done that, but then it doesn't do it. I found that out early on, some of the test shows. I thought I kind of nipped it in the bud. There was something that was kind of conflicting. But I guess maybe not. I'll have to take a look at that particular scene that I had ahead of it. It may have been like the last news piece about Steve Jackson Games, that image. I'll have to take a look. Anyway, so here are the cards. And we already know that there are different sorts of cards. Let's get this opened up. Because we saw, 40 agent cards, 40 mission cards. And then we know there's a safe house card. We know there's player aid cards. Okay, so it looks like these are agents. So let's take a peek at these. Yep. All right, so these are the 5 player aid cards. So we see main abilities. Move, turn, extract, kill, revive. Oh, and then on the back it shows there's your turn sequence. Easy peasy, nicely done. Then it appears that we've got... Okay, so there's different safe houses. Kind of cool retro art. So I guess it looks as if you've got safe houses. 4 safe houses? Don't know. I don't know if this is for when you're playing with more than 2 players or if this is only for 2 players. One thing I will point out, though, if this game does play out the way I think, where you're only concerned with the player on your left and right, those sorts of games usually turn out to be pretty good 2-player games. Don't know for sure. So these are missions, I believe. Top secret. Yep. So it says mission, top secret. All right, so for an example, we've got an alliance here. And it says, if there are matching data tokens directed away from you on this side of this faction. That's what's showing on the left. Then on the right, it says, per matching data token directed away. Huh, don't know. I have no idea what that means. Oh, it's crystal clear. Crystal clear. Casualties count if there is at least 1 dead agent in each of your factions. Chosen few. Code breaking. Now, I'm not sure if that is... That must be the intel point. So if you succeed in the mission, because it says 1 per non-matching data token. There are non-matching data tokens directed at you in this faction. So I would take a guess that these would be the intel points that you maybe gain or that you pay. Because see, we have some that are black, some that are white. Code of honor. Level playing field. Yeah, but we've got the 2 different... Huh, interesting. Don't know. Obviously, I'm going to have to take a look at the rules and play this. I can tell you right now, there's going to be take that in it. There's going to be what I like to refer to as screw your neighbor mechanics in this game. And I dig that. I do not like games that I'm playing in a vacuum. I like games where there's some, it doesn't necessarily have to be conflict, but at least when you're playing, your decisions have some impact on the other players in the game. Mission accomplished. Moral high ground. Outnumbered. Cool. Poor man's game. All right, so that's some of the missions here. Ransom, take. Oh, please let me go. Stand united, strengthen numbers. Okay, all right. So these are the missions. Let's take a look at the agents. The abductor says extract any agent from your other faction. Yeah, it looks like we've got black and white. I'm not sure what those designate. The assassin. Kill any agent in this faction. Got the extractor. The hacker. The handler. There we go. They kind of playing on Oracle there from DC Comics. The marksman. And it just seems like each of these types of agents have white and black. I wonder if you can only send an agent of that color to the same color, the same backing, to a mission with that same color backing. So paramedic, negotiator, the temptress, the undercover. That's cool. There's a lot of different art in this. It looks like there's just duplicates. No, okay. As soon as I said that, it's like, okay, back to the assassin. So I guess these are relatively common agents. The hacker. Cool. All right. Like I said, I dig the artwork. It's got kind of a bit of a minimalist feel to it. All right, so we've got the mission cards, the agent cards, the safe house cards, as well as the 5-player aid cards. We have the intel point tokens here, 1, 5, and 10, double-sided. And then we've got a relatively short rule book, but I'm getting the feeling that there are some wrinkles to this game that probably take a little bit of time to wrap your head around. But I also kind of get the impression that this is one of those games where you really have to weigh your choices about how to go about, because in the rules it shows buying, what was it? I think it's part of the sequence of play. Yeah, okay. So in the action phase, you play an agent, activate a command, buy a mission, buy an agent. I would have to take a stab in the dark that you gotta buy agents using your intel points, but I think that's how you win, is by the number of intel points. So I guess there's kind of a balancing act as far as how to budget. How to budget, yeah. It says, yeah, 40 or more IPs. So what do? Do you sit there and you stock up on your intel points, or do you go and buy missions and agents and stuff? Seems pretty cool. Looks interesting. All right. Sorry about that. Let's spend about 5-10 minutes talking about, ooh, look at this. Ooh, look at this. And everybody's just like, yeah, I'm looking at the side of your head, dummy. Hey, it's called the Daily Dope for a reason, right? All right, so that is what we find when I take everything from the agents outside the box. This is another game that I am really going to try to get to the table this weekend. I've got this. I also have Hero Realms, which I did an unboxing of yesterday, and because I think these two games would be really up Cameron and his buddies who are part of the gang, my gaming gang. I believe probably right up their alley. I'm going to bring Darkest Night with, because a couple of his friends are really into Dawn of the Zeds, and they weren't around the other week when we were playing. So anyway, if you're curious what I've got cooking for next week, I got some goodies that popped up in the mail yesterday. So I'm not sure when I'm going to squeeze this in, but Mark Walker and the gang over at Tiny Battle Publishing sent me the latest release from my good pal Herman Luttman. It is the third title in the I want to say Space Marines, but I can't legally say Space Marines. I believe they're the Galactic Marines. It's the Galactic Marines trilogy, and take a look at the back. It's got a deck of cards. It's got the counters. It's a solitaire game. My buddy Herman does great solitaire games, and I didn't play the second game in the lineup. I don't think Herman designed it. I think he was more of a developer on it. But I played the first game, and it's just a blast. Invaders from Dimension X. Really fun, very chaotic solitaire game, because you don't know what the aliens want, and you got to figure it out. It's really, really fun. Very, very cool. So I'm going to try to get this. We'll take a look at this next week. Don't know what day, though. On Monday, I am going to take a look at Wreck Age from Hyacinth Games, and they are a Chicago-based game company, and they were kind enough to send me a physical copy of the game. It is a miniatures game. I believe it's kind of more squad level, more faction level. It's not one of these games where it's like, well, you know, you have to have 200 figures to play. Don't bother playing unless you got, 100 miniatures on a side. Don't believe it's anything like that. So on Monday, I'm taking a look at this. Then on Tuesday, I am going to do how to play of Darkest Night. I'm going to spend about 45 minutes kind of running through a turn because, as I mentioned, the review earlier this week, I just wasn't up to my standards. So, and then another dip from Victory Point Games. I'm going to unbox Chariots of Rome, designed by Sean Young. This just came out from Victory Point Games, and when I was younger, when I was a teenager, we played a lot of Circus Maximus from Avalon Hill, and we enjoyed it. But looking back on it, I actually got a copy of it a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, and going through it again, I was like, wow, this is one of those games that's much better in retrospect. Of course, we used some optional rules that was available in Avalon Hill's general house organ, so I think that may have changed some things. But in fact, somebody had commented, Chariots of Rome, is it the Circus Maximus that we need? I don't know. So we're going to find that out. And then the rest of the week, Thursday and Friday, kind of up in the air. Worst comes to worst, we'll take a look at Attack of the 50-Foot Colossi on Thursday. So anyway, all right. So that is today's show. A bit shorter. I figured it was going to be pretty short because I didn't think there was a whole lot in the box for the agents. But I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend planned. And of course, when you are not watching The Daily Dope and I'm not messing up on The Daily Dope, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Come on, you know the drill by now. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Monday, I will talk about the giveaways again. Just I don't want to harp on the giveaways every show. But anyway, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll be back on Monday. And as always, thanks so much for watching.